Can you do this? Thank you.
Take one.
Take one.
I feel a frustration, a constant whisper that I am no closer to achieving my dreams.
Who is that? That's Shelley. Beautiful, isn't he?
Just how old are you then?
Old enough to know why you are asking. I'm 16.
I started making films when, right after I graduated from college, and I started working in an oil company. I just was passed for promotions, and just because the culture, this is how the culture functions. It is, and I felt so frustrated, and I wanted to have a space where I can be happy. And I started making shorts, and I made a short and I sent it to Abu Dhabi. It's a small film festival there in UAE, and got accepted, and they sent me a ticket and everything. So I felt I existed. I felt I mattered. And that is when I started continuing making films, and I started making documentaries. And then I made my first feature, which is called Wajda, and it was well received. And it was a small film, but yet still was the first film to be nominated for the Oscars by the Saudis, and it was the first film to be nominated for a BAFTA. So it did really well, and gave me the chance to be able to make bigger films. And that is when I got the script of Mary Shelley, and I embarked on this amazing journey. The producer sent it to my agent, and when I got the script, I was like, telling my agent, do they know that I am from Saudi Arabia? And then it was amazing to read the story and sympathize with Mary Shelley's journey, and how she came in a time where England was very conservative and expected women to act in a certain way and be in a certain way. And that social pressure reminded me a lot of home, and how I grew up, and how I expected to be to be molded, and how it was hurtful to be dismissed creatively when I started making films. And I totally sympathized with her journey when she tried to publish her book, and she asked to publish it without her name on it, with Percy writing the introduction. And that made me really wanting to be part of that story and telling it, and hopefully it doesn't happen as much for younger generation, and hopefully we move beyond that and give the young woman the chance to be creative and enjoy that. Don't underestimate a person just because of their gender, what I wanted to say.
When I met you, I felt alive. Come away with me.
Are you really involved with that whoremonger?
I have a fire in my soul, and I will no longer allow you or anyone else to contain it.
Of course I know about the monster. It was in the cartoons. As a kid I read Frankenstein in Arabic, but I didn't know much about her. And I was a literature major. Like, I studied Frankenstein. I wrote a paper about women authors, and Mary Shelley was one of them, a small paragraph. And I didn't stop at her life. And I was really angry at myself that I also did not acknowledge Mary Shelley. Like, she's like everybody else. Is like everybody is fascinated by the book and how amazing it is, but nobody really knows her, and nobody. And I felt like if it were a man who wrote that book, we'd have been a lot more famous. And if she written something like a romantic, like Jane Austen, she would have also been famous, because that is what's expected from her. But when women step out of line and do something that is original and theirs, usually they are met with a lot of skepticism, and people are skeptical and just embracing them. I felt obligated to tell her story. I thought it's very important to tell her story. And I was puzzled why nobody stopped at her, why nobody until now told her story. She was always, as you said, a character in another film. And it was really like so much happened in her life. She lived a very prolific life, right? Looped with Percy. It took like a road trip across Europe. And I wasn't able to put everything in the film, because it is too much to put. She lost a lot of children. She lost her sister. Like, she was so much surrounded by death. And we could not only put all that, it was because the death of one child is very devastating, let alone multiple children. So it was hard to omit things from her life, but for me, it was very important to see what are the themes in Frankenstein and related to her book. It's a way to claim that monster that escaped out from her.
We've been invited to Geneva by Lord Byron.
Would you like to join me in the Parle musical, Duena?
I have no quarrel with you becoming lovers.
Do you wish to be with someone else? I no longer see the world and its works as they before appeared to me, and men appeared to me as monsters.
We are each to write a ghost story. It's a competition.
What's wrong with you? Don't you recognize Victor Frankenstein?
It is for artists like who sacrifice their emotional well-being and go to places that nobody else can go and come back with amazing poetry, wonderful novels, and give us so much. And usually they die young, sometimes they go onto drugs, and it is hard to being an artist is always living your life on the edge. So I appreciate that. I am not a person like this. I live my life very much. I'm a mother and I want to live for my kids, and very conventional in a way. But I appreciate that the way they go to give us something that people like me are not brave enough to go there, and not that we're there selfishly consuming all their amazing books and amazing poetry, enjoying their music, and artists like this reflect on the world and our morality, and make us question, and yeah, they are the heart of our society, of our culture, I would say. Yeah, Mary Shelley arguably created science fiction, but we didn't want to have, again, the book to overshadow Mary Shelley. We didn't want the monster. That is why you don't see the monster, and you don't see it as like more of like a horror film or a science fiction film. It is more of her life and what happened to her. But also it has Gothic elements in the design and the color and the plates of the film. And I think it was important to see the world how she saw it. And also for me, Gothic is not always dark. There is for example, the opening scene at the cemetery, I wanted a cemetery that has life in it. It is about death, but also about life. And one of the very important themes in Mary Shelley's life, that she's obsessed with what life meant and recreating it. And so that is why you see the cemetery has all those trees and has a wonderful sense of Gothic, but also dark, but beautiful. And we didn't have money to build it, and we were looking everywhere. And then I remember Patti Smith, our production designer, came to me running. It's like, we found it, it's exactly what you wanted. And I went there, and it's beautiful. It's very tender and very sweet, and still it is about death, which is very problematic. It's very clashing elements, which is, I felt good for the opening scene.
This is no ghost story.
It chilled me to the bone.
You must get your story published, Mary.
Curious subject matter for a young lady.
Are you suggesting the work belongs to Mr. Shelley? It is my story.
I was a big fan of Elle's performance, and since Super 8, since she was a child, and I wanted to bring in this character. This role could tip into being melodramatic with a child dying and the continuous arguing with Percy. And I wanted an actress who has this subtle performance and who can elevate the role and bring cinematic feel to it. And I've seen Elle in Ginger and Rosa, where she did a British teenager, and she did a great job mastering the accent, and not only just bringing in the British accent, but also the way she carried herself, and her whole being was I felt it's a very accurate depiction of the culture. And it was an amazing experience working with her, and I was very happy when we sent her the script. She read it and she liked it. I don't think making a film about women means simplifying or a simple depiction of men's characters. And I have to say, like, Byron's character was bigger in the script. As more I read about how sexist he is and how bigger than life is projected, I felt it's very important to maintain him in a way that does not, because his views about women weren't like something I really respect. I feel he was really silly when it comes to women, and the way he was talking about women, it is even like he took another step of like being sexist. So, but it wasn't for me to just like. He also complex, and he's also like the product of a society that made him that way. And it's not easy just to simplify things. And one of the characters that was problematic for me was Percy, because Percy left his wife and went to run after a younger girl, and how would you justify that? And it's a character that can really be rejected right away, and that is why I wanted an actor like Douglas Booth, who has charm and has innocence, and he can portray that recklessness, but without like maybe judged but not rejected, and still there is a questions, and he can bring this character, give a little more complexity to the character.
And you dare question a woman's ability to experience loss, betrayal, death.
My choice has made me who I am.
And I regret